are crumbling. We got some Knicks trades, some college football going on, and much more. Let's get to it.
What's up, my family? Listen, first time listener, or you've been here the whole damn time. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, giddy up, let's go, no notes.
That's my baby. I'm dying. That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored. They did it.
Slap.
What the hell was that? Oh, yeah!
What the are you talking about?
What is up, everybody? Rivals back every Monday at 10:30 p.m. Last show together, as Luke and I will be parting. Long time coming, but as always, we are brought to you by Gleason's Bar. Gleason's Bar is located at 6700 Mill Creek Ave in Levittown, Pennsylvania. Use promo code A2D for 10% off your order whenever you dine in, take out, or online. That's Gleason's Bar and Steaks.com. As I brought up before, the Eagles are crumbling, so without further ado, our poll question for tonight is: the Eagles should consider firing Nick Sirianni. This is it's a very hard and a very borderline question because you bring up a guy that has brought you to the playoffs. He brought you to the playoffs last season. He brought you to the Super Bowl last season. And then this season, sure, say what you want to say. They have 11 wins. Now, do I agree they should have 11 wins? Hell no. They've had way too many close games, and they've been losing too many close games and winning too many close games. They are not an 11-win team. However, there's still 11 wins in the win column, and that says a lot. And they're not pretty, but in my opinion, after 2 seasons, you cannot move on from this guy. I think he has turned this program around. Obviously, not where you're looking to go. I mean, right now they're looking at a first-round exit. If I'm being totally honest, I mean, listen, if you go to the NFC South, maybe you're going to New Orleans and taking one, or Tampa Bay and taking one. But after that, I mean, I really don't see them taking a game from Dallas in Dallas, or San Fran in San Fran. It'll definitely be interesting, and I think a lot depends on how they perform this playoffs, because truly, like I said, if they get into the if they are a first round exit, it might be on the air of the side of yes, he's gone. But if they do make it to the second round and hey, make a run, we've seen teams get hot before in the playoffs. You know, maybe not looking too hot in the regular season, but get hot during the playoffs. Maybe we see him staying, and maybe they clean house. Maybe they're getting rid of Brian Johnson and Sean Desai. Who knows? So for now, I'm gonna have to say disagree.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree and just say, consider. I think that's the biggest point here, is to consider, not saying they should, and not saying that they will. More importantly, I'm just saying they should consider it. And the main reason is because when you go to a Super Bowl and you lose, you go to Super Bowl and you win. The main thing, the biggest part that's brought up every year is like Super Bowl hangover. Whether you're there and you lose, or you're there and you win. It's how hard it is to get there. And the two biggest reasons it's so hard to get there: one's injury, and two is just losing guys because you have to pay and bring guys back. And I look at those two aspects of things. Injuries, haven't had a whole lot of them. You get N'Kobe Dean goes down, some lingering injuries. You lose Maddox for a lot of the year, which seems like he gets hurt all the time. Last year, you lose C.J. Gardner-Johnson, was hurt for a while, and you lost some guys along the way there too. So that does not really excuse for how poorly they've looked so far. The other thing, losing guys financially. They lost guys in Hargrave and Gardner Johnson, but they brought in guys that they used using assets. They have probably the guy who's going to win defensive rookie of the year in Jalen Carter, who's heavy favorite to win that right now. And he also brought in Byard, who's a well-respected safety. So are they as good as those guys? Debatable. But the drop-off isn't that extreme to say, oh, well, the team's not as good. So those two excuses for Super Bowl hangover don't apply to this very team. The reason I say we should consider it is because the drop-off has nothing to do with those. We have no identity. And you look at teams that have gone to Super Bowls and continuously go back. gone to Super Bowls and go to, NFC, AFC title games. Let's look at, I bring it up all the time, that Patriot dynasty type thing. They had a identity. Did they win the Super Bowl every year? No, but they came damn close most years and were really, really competitive just because they had an identity of we're going to play hard-nosed football defensively and we're going to give Tom an opportunity to go and win us a game at the end of it. Chiefs, we're going to go short passing game, let Mahomes do his thing, create some plays, with our tight end, and our defense will make enough plays for us to win a game. That's their identity. That kind of stuff was repeated over and over and over again to be competitive. I look at it now, and I don't think the Eagles have any kind of identity. And you want to look at the Chiefs now and say it's different. I think, they're aging, and just like the Patriots age, I think that, that's a sense of what's going on. Defensively, they're young and hungry. They're great on that side of the ball, at least. The Eagles seem to have a problem every game. It seems like a new problem every game. It's something new comes up every single game. That's a problem. They have no kind of identity. And losing the locker room is A1 in terms of coming in, discussing and firing a coach. That's A1. You look at stuff going on right now. I mean, everyone talked about it, but I'll bring it up here again. It's 1st and 20. You get a holding call on a drive. You need to score a touchdown. Or no, where it's tied, end of the game. You want to go down, score a touchdown, help support your defense. 1st and 20. They call a quarterback sweep. 2nd and 16, quarterback sweep. 3rd and 20, a wide receiver screen. To me, that's the coach and the offensive coordinator, whatever it is, not really having trust in their $250 million quarterback. None. And that's a problem. And that has a lot to do with coaching. That has a lot to do with identity, especially on that side of the ball. And you tell me, I feel like I sit up here, I watch every game, and I watch other NFL teams play. The Eagles' defensive line, Fletcher Cox, Jalen Carter, you get Milton Williams, guys like that, Jordan Davis. They got Sweat and Hassan Reddick and Brandon Graham. They have all these guys on paper, right? We look at it from Howie Roseman's perspective. I don't think that there are many defensive lines in the entire NFL that are better on paper than what the Eagles have.
That's fair.
And then I look at the offensive side of the ball and I say, okay, is Jalen having a great year? No. Are there that many quarterbacks I'd rather have in the NFL than him still? Absolutely not. The Eagles' offensive line, are they having their best year? No. They're still a top 3 group in all of football. I look at running back core. Swift's good enough. Gainwell's a good second guy. I look at receiving core. They have a definitely top 5 receiving core in all of football. That's
without question. Without question,
That's
sure.
100%. I look at tight end. I see Goddard. There's not many better tight ends than him there either. What's the problem? What is it?
Play calling.
It's no identity. It's play calling and it's identity. That falls on the coach. And when, you got guys chewing the guy out on the field and then, in the press room not wanting to say anything, that's all 100,000% on the coach. And then we see guys, like Gannon and Steichen leave and they're having success. Who's not having success right now for our standard? Us. That's concerning, really concerning. And, should they consider firing him? Yes, because you learn so many times in the NFL season, like injuries and like losing guys financially. There's not a whole bunch of times you can get a group this talented in a room together. There's not.
Mm-hmm.
And if the right guy's not at the helm, then you got to bring the right guy in. I don't care how bad it looks. I don't care, how much pressure it is on you to do the move. If it's a year after a Super Bowl appearance, end of the day, you don't get a lot of these guys, a lot of these dogs in a room at the same time. We've been clamoring for great, wide receiver core for years. We've been clamoring for guys like, a defensive line like this for years, offensive line like this for years. We have it now. And I get it. He hasn't looked great, but I'm still a believer that Jalen Hurts is a franchise quarterback. And I think if you think otherwise, you should watch other teams in the NFL. I think, is he playing great? No. But is he the problem? Absolutely not. So the question then lies, is the right guy at the helm? And when guys are going into press rooms and they refuse to speak and they do all this kind of stuff and it's seeming to be all on the coach, yes, I think they should consider it. Do I expect it to happen? Absolutely not. But then if they go ahead and drop one playoff game, I don't care where it is. It's seeming like it's going to be on the road at New Orleans, at Tampa Bay. If you don't win a playoff game with this team and the talent on this team, I don't care where you were the year before. It's got to be talked about because they are better talent-wise than it feels like most teams that they've gone up against this year. So it's inexcusable to not win a playoff game. Inexcusable. That makes no sense.
No, I definitely agree that it should be up for consideration. And I mean, you do bring up a good point that these guys are, you're not going to get a team like this. You saw guys like CJ Gardner Johnson walk. These guys aren't going to stay here much longer. They're
You
going to
can't
be
do it.
tired
You
of
can't do
they're
it.
going to be tired of mediocrity and hey, maybe a first round exit, maybe a second round exit. They want the ring. Everybody wants the ring. They're going to go somewhere else. So yeah, you definitely bring up a good point, and I mean, it's hard. It's hard to watch, even from an outsider's perspective. It's hard to watch. I mean, how do you go into the half 21-6? All you have to do against this team, hand it off to DeAndre Swift. Hand it off to DeAndre Swift. I think they have the worst run defense, and they decide to do a screen pass, and it's mesmerizing. And I mean, to be honest, as a Giants fan, it was fun to watch, but it was disgusting. That was utterly like
Yeah,
disgusting.
and the biggest thing is I'm one of these. I'll openly tell this right now. I was not a big Gannon guy. I crushed him. I thought he was a horrendous coach and a huge reason why we lost that game in the Super Bowl last year. But same thing with a lot of fans. They killed him. What he did, he went into a building, in our building, with a completely inferior team, completely,
Yep.
and outcoached the hell out of us. What does that say about the guys in our building right now? I mean, it's got to be brought up. It has to be. So I just don't know moving forward if I have confidence with this guy. And people are giving a lot of shit to AJ Brown right now. Okay. I get it. And he's been a diva in the past and he's kind of, handled things not, the most
Poorly.
mature way,
Poorly, yeah.
whether it be on Twitter or what he's saying, whatever. You can say whatever you want. Okay. He was racking up 125-yard games with that record that he broke, Calvin Johnson's record, and we were winning. And even when you didn't want to say we look great, it had nothing to do with the offensive side of the ball. Now, when you get into first and 20s and you're not even looking in his direction, and it seems like he's a non-entity in your whole game plan, and you're starting to lose, I don't blame this guy for being ticked off at all. How could you? I don't understand it. And for him to come out and say, I have nothing good to say, stuff like that. He's the guy that's making it public. But I guarantee you, if you look at conversations, whether it be Hassan Reddick multiple times, Jason Kelsey multiple times, Devontae Smith multiple times, they have jawed out the coach on the sideline. So he does not seem to be the only person that's tight at the coach right now. He
I
just
think
seems
he's just not afraid to say it. No,
yeah, he just is the only guy that's brought it to the media and let everyone know about it, which you can have a problem with, but I don't really give a shit because I mean, no, it's not hidden. We've always called it out all year.
sure.
And the offensive coordinator deserves blame 100%. You want to fire him? Sure, I get it. I'm totally down with that. The play calling has been horrendous. But the schematically, it hasn't been there. It hasn't. And it you go into it and he says it. I go in with a game plan. I give him a spread of play calls and he just picks them. Well, if he's picking from a bunch of shit, I don't know how much blame he's supposed to have compared to you. I think you should have more blame than the offensive coordinator if he's picking from a ton of crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's the guy scheming everything and game planning everything and saying these are the guys I want involved. These are the guys I want in these kind of scenarios. Now you have Devontae Smith who just I don't forget exactly what it is. I think like a sprained ankle or something
High
like that.
ankle sprain.
Yeah, so he's spraining his ankle on a screenplay blocking for Kenny Gainwell, which he does 40 million times for whatever reason. He weighs like 120 pounds, and we got him blocking on the edge and spraining an ankle. It's just a mess, and it's not easy to watch. And it's the the real thing, and I'll go back to this point and I'll die on this hill. The main reason it's hard to watch is because I've watched inferior teams play, dress for the Eagles franchise a bunch of times. And I've seen it kind of overcome. At the end of that Doug Peterson era, we had no receivers, no offensive line whatsoever. And guys were getting hurt. And we won division titles, at the end of that with Carson Wentz. And it felt like we were just getting by with inferior talent. Now I'm watching teams where I go up and I'm saying, we have the much better team. We have, a roster that 90% of the NFL would die for, and we can't translate it into wins. It has nothing to do with the Super Bowl hangover of we can't bring this guy back because we don't have enough money. And it hasn't been, well, our guys are getting banged up. It's just the fact that you can't put it together. And I'm tired of hearing the same shit every week. This is a learning experience. This is a learning experience. We'll get better from no, you haven't. It's a broken record at this point. I'm done with it. So this week is where I'm like, done. I'm done. They're not going to go past the second round, seeming like a Sixers situation. And, now here we are talking about how we have a talented team and we have nothing to show for it, coaching-wise.
Yeah. All right. Before we get more into Eagles Cardinals analysis, we'll be right back after a quick break.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, proudly celebrating 40 years and our new, bigger showroom.
Twice the size and twice the fun.
More pool tables by Olhausen. More dartboard sets, including custom reclaimed backboards. More bar and kitchen stools that can change a room.
And more bars, including pre-built and custom.
Hot tubs, skee ball, shuffleboard, outdoor,
and fun.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, your ultimate game room store. Now located on Bethlehem Pike in Colmar.
Yeah, so just an all-around ugly game. Luke and I were talking about it earlier. I mean, you could look at it. There was one bright side, and that was how the hell did Julio Jones get in the end zone twice? I mean, I don't understand that. That guy's an artifact. I mean, that was crazy. You had Carter wreaking some havoc in the backfield, but the thing is, you guys let Kyler Murray get out of the backfield, and I think that comes with a lot of QB contain. They would try and scheme and try and, force him out of the pocket. When he's out of the pocket, I honestly think he's a better player and a better quarterback.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and then, I mean, another bright spot was Sidney Brown, INT, pick 6, but not much else for the Birds. Moving from there.
Before we move on, I just want to say, you brought up Jalen Carter. I'll say this 100%. He is number one heavy favorite in every single draft sports book right now for Defensive Rookie of the Year. And when I watch the game, it seems like he's either getting double teamed or he makes it further than any player in our defensive line to the quarterback. He makes it closest to the quarterback, stops a run, whatever. And for whatever reason, this goes on the defensive coordinator, defensive line coach. I don't know who it goes on.
He's rotated out the most.
He's rotated out more than I see Milton Williams, who is having a good year himself. I'm not going to lie, but he gets more snaps than him in some games. What the hell is going on? I look at his stats right now. He's got the best pressure rate in the NFL. He's got 6 sacks. Imagine what his stats could be like if he played as much as Fletcher Cox did. It's unbelievable why he doesn't play. And all year I was thinking, well, they're just getting him NFL ready, and maybe when it gets down to the end of the season, he'll, kick up his snap. No, he's barely played. I don't know what the hell's going on. It makes no sense. And you're getting gashed on the run. Jordan Davis is supposed to be this guy that's, clogging the run. Hasn't done it the last few weeks. And, this guy's still sitting there. I don't get it. Does not make any sense.
No, it's very ugly down out there in Philly. But without further ado, our week 17 recap. Thursday we kicked off with the Browns clinching a playoff berth. Shout out Joe Flacco. I mean, that guy came off his couch, wasn't planning on playing NFL football. He was last on the Birds, if I'm not, or maybe did he go to
No,
the Jets
Jets.
after? Yeah.
Yeah.
So last on the Jets, and thought his career was over, and then gets a call from the Browns, and has been balling out. Now, possibly might be winning the comeback player of the year, which would honestly not be surprising because if they do give it to DeMar Hamlin, I mean, I'll give respect where respect is due, but the guy hasn't played much football this season. However, on Saturday you had an ugly, ugly officiating call, and thank God the NFL came out and said we're not putting this officiating crew on an NFL playoffs game. But the
Yeah, I
Cowboys
could sit
won
up here right now as
20-19.
an Eagles. I could sit up right now as an Eagles fan and be all tight about that because we still have the lead and in a home playoff game, win a division. Like I could, but at the same time, like we just don't deserve it at all. So who am I to really give a shit? I don't.
What's the scenario? If you have to beat us and they have to lose to the Commanders?
Yeah, so that I mean, that's probably not gonna happen, and then but say that call stood, and then they go down and get shut out with 20 seconds left,
Yeah.
or however much time was on the clock, then, we are in still position as long as we
Yeah, yeah.
win next week to win the division if
Sure.
that call's made, which I understand why some fans would be pissed off, but to me, it's just like, we don't deserve it anyway, who
I
really
don't
cares?
yeah, I definitely agree, but at the same time, I think you guys a lot of the teams in the NFL now, they're 2 different teams on the road and home.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I don't
no,
think so with us. I don't even think so. I mean, we just lost to
it
Arizona at home, so
you're very right, you're not wrong. Um, you had the Dolphins getting manhandled by the, Ravens, and it's looking like, hey, maybe a possible, Ravens 49ers Super Bowl. Um, Lamar Jackson probably locking up the MVP after this past week with, CMC also going down to injury and Tyreek Hill not having much of an effect in their game. So Lamar Jackson looks to lock up that award. The Texans in commanding faction over the, Titans. It'll be an interesting race in the wild card for for the AFC, excuse me, as the Texans looking to get in. They're tied. Steelers are also tied with the Colts, so it'll be interesting. And then uh, also fighting for the division with the Jags. Jags Jags won yesterday, excuse me. You had the Patriots losing to the Bills. Josh Allen, not a pretty performance, I do gotta say. They always find a way to make those AFC East games very competitive, which is surprising. You
Yeah.
had the 49ers over the Commanders. Uh, CMC went down. We'll see what the injury status is after this week. I probably should skip over the Cardinals over the Eagles. Saints over the Buccaneers, looking to take that division. I think the Saints play the Falcons next week.
Yep.
Uh, Jags over the Panthers. Bears over the Falcons. So Falcons probably eliminated from playoff contention. Sucks to see your future bet and your prediction just go down the drain there.
It was a
Uh,
good call for a little while, though.
yeah, no, they looked good, and I mean, hey, you could argue that Heineke should have been the starter for
Yeah.
most, if not all, of the
Who
season.
knows? And they're a quarterback away.
Exactly. You had the Colts over the Raiders. Colts looking to lock up a playoff spot, which would be very interesting. Gardner Minshew comes in after Anthony Richardson opened eyes as a potential Rookie of the Year candidate, goes down, and Gardner Minshew doesn't take they don't miss a step. I mean, they're looking very good, and you could argue with you could argue that they don't have the best skills positions and they don't have the best defensive line and the best defense in general, but they just keep on going. It truly shows that all you need is coaching. Or a lot of what you need is coaching, I should say. They do have some talent, but a lot of what you need is coaching.
And they run a lot of the same stuff that we ran last year with the RPO,
Sure.
with a guy who's not even a mobile quarterback, Gardner
No.
Minshew. And then that brings me, I'm not going to rant, but it brings me back to the Eagles for a second and how the RPO is just like gone. It seemed like we ran it like once every 5 plays, and now the action we run once every 5 plays is now a telegraph quarterback draw that every team sees coming. and
Sure.
never worked. So yeah,
Yeah. At least you didn't have 8 future tickets blow up on the first play for the Jets this year. Yeah.
brutal.
Aaron Rodgers sucks to see. I guarantee you're probably one of a million, Greg. Um, but you had the Steelers over the Seahawks. Very surprising game. I was expecting the Seahawks to come away with that one. Oh, excuse me. I don't want to skip over my Giants because I had optimism and I had hope. Gunnar Olszewski takes back a punt. We drive down the field, we score a touchdown, and I'm like, word, let's go for 2. Let's put the pressure on Matty Stafford to put him in field goal range. I wasn't expecting to win this one. Would I have been happy? Sure. Do we get better draft positions? Sure.
Where are they right now in the draft? If it ended today,
I'm gonna look right now. I want to say
let's see.
they're 26th right now. So I want to say they're tied with the Titans and the Chargers right now. So, I mean, listen, do I want to play spoiler against Philly next week and, forbid them from getting a home playoff game? Hell yeah.
I
But
mean, we're
at the
probably gonna
same
get it
time,
anyway.
it's a win-win situation for me, in my opinion. But ugly
Yeah,
game.
right now they're at pick 5. If it
Pick
ended
5. Okay.
today,
So, I mean, we'll get into it in a little bit, maybe doing some draft predictions if we have some time. But moving along, you had the Broncos over the Chargers. The Broncos, if the Chiefs had lost, the Broncos would have been fighting for a playoff spot tomorrow. However, I do believe they are eliminated from playoff contention, and we'll see what happens out there. Russ probably going to be on the move, which is just hard to see. I mean, Russ that downfall needs to be studied.
well,
It's just been
I think it's
horrendous.
kind of a dictatorship going on over there. I mean, you look at Russ's stats. There's a lot of bad quarterback play going on in the NFL right now. There's really only like 5 guys that are having like a pretty
A
good
great
season.
season. No, no, no.
Yeah,
I totally agree. There's the great line, there's the average quarterback line, and then there's the horrendous line.
he's average. Like he's having a good year.
No, no,
There's
there's
a
a
lot
lot
of
of
guys.
average.
You look at Pittsburgh and New England and those kinds of teams. Like they would love Russell Wilson to be their quarterback.
Mhm.
And I don't think is he great? Are you going to win a Super Bowl with him? I don't know,
Could you
but it's
imagine he goes to New England and pairs up with Belichick after Belichick beat him in the Super Bowl, and that would be a story to
well. While
watch.
we're on the subject, I kind of like him if Tomlin stays. I like him in Pittsburgh with
Not,
those
not
2 receivers and the
dude. I don't.
defense.
But well, if you're gonna say, I don't think Tomlin's moving. I really don't think
I
Tomlin's
don't think he will
moving.
either. Yeah, I don't think he will either.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I just saw a stat yesterday actually. Hasn't had a losing record as a head coach.
17 years.
That's crazy. That is wild.
Yeah.
Um, you had the Chiefs over the Bengals, winning by just a score, but it felt like they were in dominating fashion. Finally got back in the win column, and I believe secured the AFC West with that win. And then last night we saw the Packers over the Vikings in dominant fashion. So a lot is on the line in week 18 with wild card spots to be clinched. I don't believe we've had any clinched just yet.
No.
But you have
The only one the NFC is is the
you
Eagles.
guys, yeah.
Yeah.
Whoever doesn't win the NFC East clinches. But you got a team in New York. You got the Packers, Seahawks, and Saints. All at 8-8. And I don't know how that would work if the Rams lose next week. Who the Rams
I
playing next week?
believe didn't
Rams play the Niners next week, so they could lose. We could see 4 teams at 9-8. I don't know
I
how.
believe Green Bay decides their own destiny with a win in Chicago. I think if they win, they're in. Oh no, they're at home in that one. So if they win, I believe they're in. So yeah, because the
You have
Packers played.
Seattle. You have Seattle against Arizona, and you have the Falcons against the Saints.
So the Packers played the Rams earlier in the season, and they beat the hell out of them. So I think the Rams are the team that need help to get in. I believe.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Green Bay is winning in, correct.
Yep.
Thanks, Greg. And then in the AFC, like I mentioned previously, you got 3 teams fighting for that last spot with Indianapolis, Texans and Steelers all tied at 9-7. I believe the Texans play the Colts, so that'll be a great game to watch. Probably be on Saturday, but we'll
Yep.
see.
That's
But yeah, a lot to look forward to in this last week of football. But we'll be right back after this with some college football talk. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Hats.com is the premier destination for quality and fashion-forward hats and more, with designs for every style and trend. Locally based and run by Philly sports team fanatics, Hats.com can help you elevate your hat John. Utilize the easy-to-use guides at Hats.com to find your perfect size and style, and shipping and returns are free. Hats.com. Find yourself in a hat. Use code Philly for 15% off your order. Hats.com.
So Greg said Rams have locked up the 60s. So
yeah, that does make sense.
Seating.
That makes sense.
Interesting. Okay, so we'll get into some college football talk. Saturday we had a lot of college football going on this past week. Let me pull up the some bowl games and some scores since I probably forgot about the few. But to start off, we'll talk about just how disappointing and sad and miserable this being a Penn State fan is. And to be honest, Luke's more of a Debbie Downer than I am, but I've had enough. And it's when is the
I wouldn't call it
mediocrity-
being a Debbie Downer. I would just say
No,
realistic.
you're more of a realist, I should say. Sorry.
Yeah.
You're more of a realist. I don't think we're gonna have that good of a season with the schedule we have next year. Playing teams like Washington, UCLA, USC. I don't see us winning more than 8 games. And if we do, I'd say that's a good season. You see a lot of it in college football nowadays with the transfer portal. You see guys hitting the portal and they go to a new destination and they pop off. We've seen it now. Luke and I were talking about it earlier. Michael Penix. We saw it with Will Levis leaving Penn State. There's a lot of these guys that'll leave destinations. Jaden Daniels too. They'll leave destinations to go somewhere else. It's a coaching thing. And I wish people would see it in the NFL too sometimes because it happens. We've seen it. But it's mesmerizing to see how different these quarterbacks will play with new coaching staffs.
Yeah, and it's also going off of that, like we in the same conversation we had, like this isn't the NFL. You're talking about like a 19-year-old kid walking into a Big Ten program. This is new. I mean, it's new to anybody. So it takes development. It takes the right coaches around him. It takes the right, people and personnel around him. And there's none of that in Penn State right now with Drew Allard, and that's a massive problem, especially when you talk about a 19-year-old kid walking into a program. You look at all the greatest players, Joe Burrow even. It took him a few years to get off that national title, number 1 draft pick kind of season that he had. Trevor Lawrence, he was that guy all throughout high school. But if you don't think Dabo Sweeney and the guys he was throwing the ball to and all those guys, ETN and those guys had something to do with that too, it did. So, that's not, I'm not dissing the talent that those guys had, like the Deshaun Watsons and the Jalen Hurts and the Tuas and those kind of guys that won games. But you look at Penn State right now, and they don't have them. And you're talking about a guy who's a leader of a program, one of the biggest in the Big Ten and all of college football, gets the most traction, in the East Coast at least. And you lose a game. You have a really bad you have bad credibility. You have a bad reputation when it comes to these kind of big games. And you have a horrible record against ranked teams. Everyone knows it. You get shit for it. And the second you lose the game, and you're probably going to get heat. And instead of taking the fall, I want to read what our coach, the leader of a massive program, said. He's getting paid $100 million.
This yet, so I'm interested.
Keep in mind, this guy's getting paid $100 million. This is it. Steps up to the podium right after the game. Just too many moving parts with the staff and with the players against a good team. Too many moving parts, staffs and players to have the type of success we wanted to have today. So essentially he's saying, well, if we had all these guys not drop out and not, opt out in this game, whatever, we would have won the game. That's essentially what he's saying. What I saw, I don't know, he was standing right there. What I saw on my television, on my freaking couch, is what I saw is a team get completely outcoached. Completely outcoached.
Yep.
You're down one possession coming out of the half. You're down one possession. You have a 4th and 1 at around like the 40-yard line.
Oh,
You don't
that
have the
drives me
guts.
insane.
You don't have the guts to go out and say, yeah, let's get the yard, because your defense wasn't stopping shit all game.
It's the Peach Bowl, dude. It's the Peach Bowl.
you
We're not
punt
fighting for a natty. We're
you
not
punt
fighting
the
for a
ball.
natty.
You punt the ball, and then you're down 2 possessions. That was it. That was it. That was the game right there. You gave him the game. You punted the ball away. That was the game right there. So instead of taking accountability, which he refused, this is not the first time. That's why I bring it up. This is not the first time. Instead of taking accountability, which he didn't do it against Ohio State, which he didn't do against Michigan, which he didn't do against Ole Miss this past time, or Ohio State and Michigan in years past, he does not take accountability. And that is a huge thing. And that's when I go and I talk about, who do I want my 19-year-old quarterback, growing with, developing with. I want him developing and growing with a guy who's going to sit up here and take the heat and get paid $100 million and say, yep, this one's on me. That was a bad decision. I got to be better. I have to look at the film. Something that all these guys seem to do, except you, time after time after time again. It's the same thing. It's the same movie. I feel like they lose these games. It's not even, that bowl game. I look at how they lose to Michigan and Ohio State. They lose to these teams the same way, albeit, they guys opt out defensively. The defense shows up, and offensively, they're inept in that they don't want to run the ball, and they throw the ball. No one's open. They're not scheming guys to get open. They don't move the pocket. It's the same thing over and over and over again. So when you sit up here and tell me, next year what I believe, I think the ceiling, the absolute ceiling, is that they win 9 games. Now, is that good enough to get into a playoff next year? It's a different world. We'll see. But they're not going to do anything in the playoff. And realistically, I think they're going to go 8-4. And I don't think that merits a top 12 team that'll be in the playoff anyway. So then that brings up the question, new playoff, second year with this big quarterback. You had, the new NIL deal go your way, and you can bring in these transfer portal guys. You had an opportunity. If you don't make the playoffs then, there's nothing left to see. It's time to go.
No, that's it's you got to do something. And we didn't see a wide receiver catch the ball until the third quarter. You're a Big Ten team. You're going up against these they're good recruiting classes. I mean, we have a good recruiting class, but
every year
it's pathetic. It's recruiting linebackers and O-line and D-line. Don't get me wrong, that is how you win football games sometimes. But when you get a 5-star quarterback, you got to get a receiver. We've seen it with Marvin Harrison Jr. Sure, Kyle McCord isn't the greatest quarterback, but he has a guy like Marvin Harrison, which exploits his game.
And just like we talked about, with the Eagles, how I just went on that rant. Does Michigan have some 5-star crazy receiver? They don't. But what they do have is they have an identity. They'll use the run game, kill you to death with the run game, and then they go to their play action with their tight ends, and they go to that, flea flicker stuff, and it's an identity. That's how they win. I look at us and I say, we don't have wide receiver 1 on our team. We have a pretty good offensive line, and we have a great quarterback. But for what reason? And we have great running backs, but for what reason? We don't seem to like to stick to the run. There's just no kind of identity, and it pains me to watch them, waste all this talent again. I'm watching 2 poorly coached teams play every week. It's a joke. And I'm kind of I'm tired of it. I really am. It's a joke.
Hate it. Yeah.
It's not fun.
Yeah. All right. With some other bowl talk, USC, I think his name is Morgan Moses, maybe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Or Morgan Moss, excuse me. Looks pretty goddamn good. Looks like he'll be a good replacement for Caleb Williams. Obviously.
Wait. Before we while we're on the Penn State side of things,
as Washington
I
scores a touchdown
I
coming
know
out of half.
you're a little ahead of me, but when we get to whatever, when we get to I'm sure we'll get to the Michigan game that just happened,
Sure.
but there was a moment in that game where they had to have it. It was like it was the drive to tie it. There's like 3 minutes left. It's 4th and 1.5 on their own 40-yard line. And Harbaugh knew, I don't want to, this is our time. We're scoring right now. That is
Oh,
a
dude, that
go.
was fucking awesome.
That is
I know
I want
exactly
to
where you're
win
saying.
this
They were on the
game.
35, and they're like, you know what? We're gonna go down the field. We got fucking nuts. Harbaugh's got a pair of nuts.
Yeah,
That's what I love about these fucking college
that is
coaches. James
I'm
Franklin doesn't have nuts, and it
that's a
fucking
play to
drives me
win
insane.
mentality. That's a play to win mentality. And I don't care what stage it was. At the end of the day, I saw my guy play not to lose.
Sure,
And that's not who I want coaching.
sure.
It's not.
Yeah. No, it was a very ballsy move, and he obviously paid off, as we'll talk about in a little bit. You had Arizona over Oklahoma on Thursday, in the Alamo Bowl. You had Clemson over Kentucky, pretty good game there, and then Mizzou Ohio State. I'll bring up that game. What the hell happened to Ohio State? Sure, you didn't have Marv playing. McCord is gone. You still got Ibuka. You still got Travion Henderson. You still got your tight end Cade Stover. What the hell happened? You got your defense too. I mean, it was a train wreck, and I'll give him short. Devin Brown is not a quarterback, and Lincoln, whatever Keenholz, their freshman quarterback that filled in for him, wasn't suit for the job either. It'll be interesting. Will they go out and get a quarterback, and how will they fare? I'll tell you what, if James Franklin can't beat Ohio State next year,
At
I
home.
will
At
I will be
home.
I will be DMing him on Twitter, and he will not be liking
At
it.
home.
Yeah,
We're talking about at home with no
yeah.
quarterback. I mean,
Uh,
their side too. I think that they should consider letting this guy go too. To not beat Michigan 3 times in a row, and I get it, it's kind of like a whatever bowl game, especially with all the guys opting out and your quarterback transfer and whatever. I mean, they looked like an embarrassment. To score 3 points that's Iowa-esque. That is unacceptable. I
yeah,
don't know. He might
yeah.
have to go.
Saturday you had Maryland commanding fashion over Auburn. Uh, Georgia. I mean, how is the spread of that game only 21.5? Luke and I talked about it. They should have been like 35-point favorites. And sure, Florida State had some opt-outs. I get you're upset. You're not making the national champion or the college football playoff, which whoever you played, Bama or Michigan, I do believe you still would have gotten stomped by both of them. And I will stand on that hill. You would have gotten stomped
Yeah.
by both of them.
Yeah, I won a lot of money on that one. I alt spreaded it to as many points as Georgia could win by.
Yeah. And then today, earlier today, we saw LSU over Wisconsin, and Wisconsin looked like they were going to take that game, and LSU took it in the final quarter. You had Tennessee over Iowa winning 35-0. They call themselves the defensive school, and yet they can't even put offensive points on the
Yeah,
board.
and moving forward, and I don't think we will because of the way the Big Ten's going to look next year, but I do not want to see them ranked ever again. I just don't. I don't want to pretend like they should be ranked
Who,
because
Iowa?
all it did was it made James Franklin's record against ranked opponents a little bit better, look a little bit better.
Sure.
They came in here in the whiteout game, and I mean, I thought we were playing a JV team. We might as well have been playing Delaware. I mean, it was
No,
a
it
joke.
was pretty embarrassing.
When you can't move the ball, I mean, I don't get how you could be top 25 in anything. They can't score. It's a joke.
Yeah.
I don't think they could. If they played JMU and they were ranked or whatever, and they played a bowl game. I don't think that they won it. I don't remember. Either way, it doesn't matter. If they played JMU, that'd be a slugfest. I think it would be like 3-0 final score type thing. They should never
Sure.
be ranked again.
I totally agree. Put them in a bowl game. Let's see what
Yeah,
happens.
and going back to Greg's point, I mean, Georgia had the same amount of opt-outs in that game as FSU did, and you still got dog walked off the field. I mean, Jesus, what an embarrassment. They got shut up real quick. No doubt
Yeah.
about it.
Um, in the first game of the college football playoff in the Rose Bowl. Oh wow, and balls out. Sorry. Uh, with the Rose Bowl, you had Michigan taking Alabama to overtime, and we'll get into it a little bit. I wanted to just touch on it, but we'll get into it as we have to go to a quick commercial break. So we'll be right back after this.
In our family, food is our daily bond. My nonna, affectionately called Mama by many, found solace and joy in the kitchen, sharing her love through delicious creations. She turned her culinary passion into a flourishing business alongside her husband and sons in 1983. Celebrating 40 years is a testament to our exceptional team, friends, family, and beloved customers. With gratitude, we look forward to the future, expanding our brand to share the highest quality Italian food and wine nationwide. Our heartfelt thanks to everyone who has played a part in our story. Grazie mille.
Yeah, so as we touched on before the break, Michigan taking Bama to overtime and ultimately winning it. We saw a bit of a lack of confidence, I should say, with Saban. You got he's a very versatile quarterback in Jalen Milroe, and we saw him move the ball with his legs, but not so much with his arms, and it kind of was exposed in the end. I mean, all you really had to do was keep him in the pocket. And when he got out of the pocket, sure, he was dangerous. But in the pocket, he didn't really make the throws that he had to. And we saw it in the end come down to it. And then on that last play, I mean, it was just Eagles-esque. I mean, what are we doing running a QB draw on 4th and goal from the 3? It was
Very
mind-blowing to me.
Eagles-esque. I mean, to have 2 timeouts in between that to really discuss it. I mean, that's really, what happens at the what I saw was I saw when after the first timeout, Michigan called to see what they were lining up in. The next timeout, it looked like Nick Saban called it because he wasn't happy with the play call that they made to adjust. Is pretty much what I saw. So I think he definitely deserves a lot of blame for that. It seemed like he had final call, and as he should,
Yeah.
on what was being called on that one. So, you don't normally blame him for much often, but definitely deserves
No,
some
you
blame
you
there.
bring up you bring up a good point. It was just a very ugly play call, and they played against Michigan's strengths very well. I mean, Blake Corum was very bottled up for most of the game, and they forced JJ McCarthy to make some hard throws. He didn't look all that great in the first half. I believe the first half, Bama was up, I want to say, or maybe tie. I honestly don't remember. But just a very good first half, and then in the second half, just looked like Michigan had more control over the game
Yep.
than Alabama did, and we saw it in the end as Michigan took the game 27-20, and then in the second game of the college football playoff, last time I checked, uh it was 35. It was 28-21. Washington inside of Texas's 10. We'll see if they can take it. But as I touched on earlier, Michael Penix, I mean, what a transition going from Indiana, the crapshoot of that. I mean, I remember when we played him freshman year, and I think it was maybe 31-0 or 28-0, something like that. And it was just ugly. I was like, dude, they could take Tom Brady at quarterback. I truly didn't understand the talent that Michael Penix had, and sure, he didn't display it. And that's what we see nowadays is that, like we touched on earlier, they transfer, they hit the portal, and you see their talent really exploited.
How about this? Going to a similar kind of, I guess now we're all in the same conference, but I'm not sure what Oregon has moving forward with transfers and things like that. Say Drew Allar went to Oregon with that offensive mind, that coach or whatever, and he transferred there. I think there'd be a whole lot of different opinion in terms of how good he is as
Oh,
a college
without
quarterback.
question. I mean, I think one of either him or Bo Prabula, and I'm not saying they're very comparable. Is Bo Prabula good? Sure, I'll say he's good. I mean, I think truly what's going to happen is we're going to ride with Alar, and we're going to get a Will Levis situation where Bo Pribula leaves, goes somewhere, and is a Will Levis type of talent and goes in the draft. Meanwhile, Drew Aller's a 5th, 6th round pick, and we're stuck with him. But it'll be interesting. But I believe Washington might have just kicked a field goal or maybe
Yeah.
an injury.
So
I'm not
previewing
positive.
that next game, obviously we don't know who's going to win. I think it's the same thing on Michigan's side in terms of what they need to do. Their formula on both of these teams needs to be, you know, they have to get ahead. They have to get a lead. That's how they're going to beat these teams. They have to stick to their run game, go up 7, 10 nothing, 7, 10 points, and then let your pass rush just eat on these guys. Because watching both of these teams, they want to get the deep passing game going, play action game going. If you can get to Penix and Ewers, I mean, it's easier said than done. Then
Sure.
that's what's going to, eventually lead to them. Their offense is kind of slowing down a bit. That's what's their formula in my eyes moving forward. Get a lead on either of these teams, and then let that pass rush, which we saw today, very elite. That's how they're going to win. So obviously it's interesting to see who's going to win this game. To me, I think Michigan has the upper hand on either of these teams. I think Bama's better than both of these teams playing right now. I think,
Oh,
yeah,
without, I actually don't know. And going into this game and
not by much, not by much.
going into both of tonight's game, I honestly thought the championship matchup we were going to have was going to be Bama Texas. I thought it was going to be a rematch, and I thought it was going to be a who's going is Texas going to sweep the season series. Now after the Michigan game, I kind of changed my views and I kind of did some research, and Michael Penix he's a gunslinger. And we've seen it all of tonight. I think he has around 320, maybe even 330
And
yards
they're
right now.
they're just
And they're
not
still
getting to
going.
him. They're just
They're
not
still
getting to
going.
him.
Yeah, exactly. They're
That's the
just not
difference.
getting him. They're rushing him out of the pocket, but hey, he's not going to take off upfield. He's going to wait for his receivers to get open, and he has talent on the outside. I mean, Romeo Dunze. I didn't know much about him, and I've heard should the Giants draft him, should they not? We'll get into that in a little bit, maybe. I don't personally believe so right now with the wide receiver talent that I believe that we do have. I'll be one of a firm believer that the Giants do have the talent in the skills positions, and it is truly on both sides of the line that we need to fix up. But right now, Romeo Dunze is just putting up numbers. I think he's going as the number 2 receiver in drafts right now, after Marvin Harrison and before Malik Neighbors, who we saw earlier today a bit, and then he decided to get out of the game. Obviously, smart for him, saving millions. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who comes out of this Washington Texas game, with Washington now leading 31-21 with about halfway through the third quarter. So it'll be interesting. NBA trades. So I guess you could see the guy behind me, OG Anunoby, Malachi Flynn, and Precious Achua traded to the Knicks for RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly. Me being a Knicks fan, I didn't know what to think at first, and I was a bit pessimistic about it. And I thought we had cracked RJ this season. You know, he was averaging probably about 16 a game, and you do have Emmanuel Quickly being one of the front runners for Sixth Man of the Year. Very good spark off the bench, and obviously very can change the momentum in a game. Honestly, definitely a good change of pace guard from Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson tries to slow the game down, whereas Manuel Quickly's let's run and go. Let's keep it going. Very high energy guard, and then they got OG Anunoby, who I wasn't too high on, but then I stayed on the optimistic side, and to be honest, was Emmanuel Quickly coming back next year? Probably not. He was on his contract year. Uncle Leon probably wasn't signing him. RJ, we couldn't really get the full potential out of him with Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson being both ball hungry. And I truly think he's a great fit out in Toronto. I didn't catch the end of that game. I was keeping up with it, but I know RJ had around 17 near the end, Quickly with 14 in an interesting starting role. Pushed Dennis Schroeder to the bench, which was very mind-boggling to me. I mean, I thought Dennis Schroeder should be starting. I do believe they got around the same minutes, but nonetheless, OG Anunoby played very well for the Knicks. I think he had about 16, 7 and 1. So, and he can guard 1 through 4. And it's what you need right now from this Knicks team. A good 3-and-D guy, a guy that can average about 12 to 16 a game and give you that defense on the end of the game. Sure, we got Josh Hart coming off the bench. He's definitely not a starter. As we saw him actually taking some minutes from Dante DiVincenzo near the end of the game to, go from offense to defense and defense to offense. But I'll err on the side of optimism and say that it was a pretty good trade for the Knicks. And last bit of things is that now we don't have to watch Taj Gibson play basketball as Precious Achiuwa can run the backup big.
Yeah, I kind of agree with everything you said. I'll just add to it a little bit. To me, the grade on the trade won't be completely clear to anybody until we find out what they get for these first round picks, which it's seeming like they're definitely going to deal. And you still have guys to match salaries with. You have Evan Fournier making a lot of money. Can't trade Mitch right now because he's hurt. So it's seeming like Fournier and a bunch of these picks is going to get you the next guy in there. I like Anunoby. I like the fit. I think he fits anywhere is the thing. And the sad thing with him is that he's going to become one of these players similar to like a Tobias Harris where he's going to get $180 million most likely. And when it's all said and done, Knick fans are going to look at his stats and say, well, he's not worth $180 million. Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. But to me, it's about what's around that. You have your dog right now in Brunson. Randall, is he that guy that's going to average 22 points around that per game in the playoffs? He has to be because Anunoby's not that guy, and you can't expect him to be that guy. As you
Surrounding
said,
them, you got Hartenstein, you got DiVincenzo, and then coming off the bench, it's not too much star power.
right. So I was going to say the main thing that they need is one of two things. They need to fill one of two holes right now. One, it's either another wing scorer, which Anunoby's better than the bench guys in the league, but that's not that's not the strength of his game. He's a catch and shoot player, defensive player, 3-and-D kind of guy. They need a guy who can either score at a high level on the wing, which to me is better fit than what Julius brings. I'd rather just have Anunoby play the 4 and bring a guy that can score on the wing at a high level. That's my opinion, but whatever. It seems like they're definitely going to stick with Randall. Or the other thing you have to fill is bench scoring. Now, obviously, the game today, Josh Hart played out of his mind and made a bunch of shots. But they need a guy, as silly as it sounds, like an Emmanuel Quickly, who's going to play off the bench, a kind of guard that's going to score 12 points guaranteed every single night off your bench, like a Kelly Oubre kind of situation. So for me, I look at it now and it's like, can you go out and get a Jordan Clarkson? Someone like that. Now, if you fill him in on that bench, I think that they can win a playoff series, no doubt, and maybe some gelling and filling out the roster for future years. Maybe you go deeper. But to me, the way you're going to maximize Brunson and Anunoby together is by getting a legit wing scorer, which is not easy to find. As silly as it sounds, you need a guy that's going to put up like 20 points a night scoring on the wing.
No,
and a guy that defensively, I don't know if that's really a concern right now. Mitch is a great interior defender. DiVincenzo can hold his own defensively, and Anunoby can play defense. Now, the guy you can bring in can't be a dog shit defender, but he can bring in somebody that just scores 20 points a night that's a better fit, more so than clogging up, posting up every possession, only scoring in the mid-range like Randall does. I'm not sure if that's a 21st century way of winning. Maybe that's the way to go moving forward. Now, is that Donovan Mitchell? That would be otherworldly. I think that'd be a perfect fit. This is not going to happen, but say it does, and you have a lineup of Brunson, Mitchell, DiVincenzo, Anunoby, and Mitchell Robinson. Now you're talking championship contention. That's what you're talking about there. Right now, with Randall being your second scoring option, might be a hot take. I don't care how well you surround your roster. I don't think that you're talking high-end finals championship
No,
contention.
without question. And to go off you, I did see some Mitchell rumors, and it's could Mitchell bring in another guy? Could they deal, let's say, Grimes, Fournier, and maybe another guy, and go out and they get Mitchell, and let's say maybe they get a guy like Max Strus, a guy that maybe isn't a great player, but can give you 8 to 12 points off the bench and provide you that wing scoring. Maybe even DeJounte Murray. They go out and get DeJounte Murray, a guy that can both drive to the hoop and play some defense. And maybe they bring in a guy like Sadiq Bey with him too. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, to
And
me, I think that the DeJounte Murray thing is the most realistic. That's what I see what's going to happen. I think
sure.
you'll see DiVincenzo move to the bench, and he'll kind of slide in right
That
there
and that's
as a
that's what I would
secondary
think is
ball
that
handler.
DiVincenzo off the bench would be unreal. I don't care who you're getting, whether obviously what I love what I love DeJounte Murray. Sure. We don't I don't think we need that high caliber of a player. To me, I want a guy that's going to be 15 to 18, that's going to give me 35 to 38 minutes a game, and is going to provide that spark plug down the end of games. Because right now they're they're doubling Jalen near the end of the games, and they're forcing the ball into Randall's hands. And we've seen it before. We've seen Randall collapse at the end of games, and it's ugly to watch. I was watching near the end of the game today, their game versus Minnesota, surprising victory, but they were just doubling Jalen at the top, and it was, can Julius make his buckets? And sure, he did today. Will he make them every day? Hell no. Hell no. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting. A lot of optimism as a Knicks fan, but also a long road coming for this team to be built. You still got Isaiah Hartenstein starting at center. You're not going anywhere this season. I
For
think it's
now,
more
yeah.
so building for next season.
Has Mitch been out for is he gonna be ruled
He is
out the
ruled out for
entire
the
season?
season. Yeah, it was I think it was an Achilles injury, if I'm not
Okay,
mistaken, but
so
I'm not
that'll
positive.
that'll definitely do it. How long Devontae Smith out? Hasn't been ruled yet. Seems like a day-to-day thing, thank God, but keep
That's
having him block out
interesting.
there in the
High ankle sprain.
yeah, keep having him out there for blocking schemes on the perimeter, and we'll probably tear his damn ACL every day.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see what happens. But from a
Going off
Sixers perspective,
Yeah, going off the Knicks with maybe possible Sixers trade ideas.
yeah. So for me, I think people are going about this the wrong way. Um, I'm not even going to waste my time on the Zach Lavine thing. I think it's a horrendous idea, and the only thing I'll say about it is we were in love with bringing Tobias here on a trade because he was putting up 20 points on a team, like an 8 seed kind of team, that kind of, performance every single night. It's the same kind of thing. So if you're mad at Tobias Harris and what he's bringing you every night, you're going to be the same kind of thing with Lavine, who has been hurt and missing games. And now all of a sudden the Bulls look like a much better team. I don't think it's coincidence. I think he's an empty 20 kind of night. And as Don just said, empty 20. I completely agree. I think that's exactly what he gives you. And I think it's a waste of time. Now, the other guy played tonight, similar team we were talking about. Is Siakam the greatest fit? I don't know. I think it's debatable. I think Nick Nurse can make it work with how familiar he is with it. I don't think it's going to happen. Um, I think the one main weakness the Sixers have right now is rebounding. I think he would definitely fill that need. And looking ahead, you want to compete with Boston and Milwaukee in the playoffs.
They
You
got
need a
that
wing.
they got, not only do they got that wing, you need a wing defender, but you
We
also
need a
need
wing defender.
some big interior size. With the Celtics, you got Horford and Porzingis, and then with the Bucks, you got Lopez and Giannis. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah, so when you go into a series, especially mainly against Milwaukee and Giannis, fouls are valuable. So when you get guys like, you want guys going into the game that are quality offensive players, but also like, okay, I want 6 fouls out of you because we want to send him to the line. Now, it's silly to trade for someone to commit fouls. I get it. But he's somebody that, can go into the game, commit 4 or 5 fouls, sub someone else in like Batum. He commits 3 fouls. That's 9 fouls right there versus you get what I'm saying. So that's valuable in my eyes going up against those two kind of teams. I see that. But to me, the biggest thing is I would rather right now wait until free agency, wait till those guys are free agents and make a decision then. I want to bank on depth now because I can do that. And it's seeming to work right now. We're one of the deepest teams in all of basketball right now,
100%.
which I could never say in the Embiid era and ever since I've watched the Sixers play basketball. So, for me, I want to bank on this depth thing right now. I want to see how it goes out. Now, does that mean we don't make a move? No. I want to go out and get a guy like Alex Caruso because I think he's better than what Melton gives you at the end of a game. I want him, in this lineup. I think would be fantastic. And moving forward, it doesn't restrict you financially for going out and signing free agents. Now, people are saying trade Tobias. That is the missing piece. And if this is what he's going to give us, then I get why you want to trade him. But for right now, I think if he becomes what he was when we first got him, which is a 3-and-D guy, a catch and shoot guy, we maximize the talent all around the board, then we'll really see what's going on. To me, he's still like a third option, slow developing scorer, which is not what I want to see him as. I want to see him quick decisions, 1-2 shoot, 1-2 dribble shoot. Like that's the kind of stuff I want to see him in. Not slow developing, pick and roll, take the ball out of Maxey and Embiid's hands. Like that's not what I want to see. I want to see catch and shoot. I want to see defensive, which is what he was when we first got him with the Jimmy Butler team. He was a catch and shoot guy, and it was fantastic. Great basketball to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But, now it's kind of that slow developing kind of basketball, and I don't know if we're maximizing his talent right now. So I guess we'll see. In terms of trade, I'm Alex Caruso or nothing. And, yeah. Or maybe like a Jordan Clarkson, something like that. But I don't really think it's needed as much as it is like the Knicks will need him or a team like that. I think we have enough bench scoring with Morris and Oubre. I think
Sure.
it's more of can we bring a guy that can knock down shots and get some fouls and defense going when it really matters in the playoffs.
Yeah. Last thing we'll touch on before we sign off. Who is what's the top 5 going now with the NFL draft? Obviously the Bears holding the Panthers pick. Obviously probably not going with the quarterback. Probably Marvin Harrison. We've seen some connection with Marvin Harrison linked to the Bears. DJ Moore, good friends with him, and Justin Fields obviously having that Ohio State connection with him. After that, who's are the Patriots at 2?
Yeah, so I'm the Commanders are at 2 right now. But I'm going to bring up a point that no one's talking about and it's not going to happen, but if I were the Bears GM, this is what I would do. They have the number 1 pick right now, and you're about to have to pay Justin Fields, who albeit looks better, but end of the day does not look like like a solidified franchise guy. Now, Caleb Williams, we know nothing about him in the NFL, but what we do know is that he's the highest graded guy. And what you also know is financially, you're not going to be as tied to him. So you can pay other guys around him and stack your roster as best you can. To me, I'm taking him at 1. That's what I'm doing. And then on top of that, I'm doing what Houston did this past draft. Fill a need and bank on the fact I will be competitive next year. I'll have a mid to late first round pick. And currently, I just looked, they have the 10th pick right now. I'm trading the 10th pick. I'm trading my future one next year. I'm trading whatever it takes me to get to number 2. And I'm getting Marvin Harrison on my team as well. So now you have Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison on your team.
Wow.
Whatever it takes, I'm doing that. Because you have the defense, which has been very competitive in years past. You then have DJ Moore, Marvin Harrison, and the highest graded quarterback in whatever the heck they want to call it. That's what I'm doing. It's not going to happen, but Houston did it, and no one really expected it. They got Will Anderson, and they got CJ Stroud, and now no one's in Houston saying, well, I wish we had our first round pick. No one's saying that. That's what I would do if I were the Bears GM, but no one's talking about it. I don't see it happening, but I'm just throwing it out there.
No, that's very interesting. Um, Looking at it at 3, you obviously have the Patriots too. They'll probably look quarterback with just a catastrophe back there in their backfield, and then 4 is are the Chargers ahead? Think the Chargers are ahead of us, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. No, it's the Cardinals right now.
Cardinals at 4, so they could also be looking at trading up to maybe 2 to get Marv. So it'll be interesting. And
I
then
think the
obviously
Patriots are locked to draft a quarterback. They might be I mean, the Commanders and New England seem to be the 2 teams that are going to draft a quarterback. I think for both our sakes, we don't want Caleb Williams
to
in our
be a
division.
commander.
Yeah.
No, that's very fair. And then the Giants going into the season, or sorry, middle of the season, I was like, hey, maybe we need a quarterback, or maybe we need a maybe we need a wide receiver. Obviously paying Daniel Jones, you're not going to give up on him as much as I want to, and as much as you can argue that you should. You can't give up on a guy that you're paying $40 million a year. So
Yep.
it was wide receiver. Let's go get Marvin Harrison, Romeo Dunze, Malik Neighbors. I don't care who. Let's go get one of them. This receiving core, for whatever you want to say, they've been putting up good games these past couple of games. And we've seen the full potential of Darius Slayton. We've seen the full potential of Wan'Dale Robinson. And we've seen some of the potential of Jalen Hyatt. Jalen Hyatt has been a great deep ball threat with Darius Slayton also looking at a good deep ball threat, and then you got Wan'Dale Robinson underneath. So right now, it's can we shore up this offensive line? You got a guy in Andrew Thomas as your backside tackle. Sure, you locked him up. I love the move. You got a great center in John Michael Schmitz. You got 2 veteran guards. They'll be gone, and then you got at right tackle. You got good old Evan Neal. Now, if you're smart, what they did is you'll move Evan Neal to a guard position like the Commanders did with Eric Flowers, and you'll try him out there. And I'm not saying it's going to work, but I'm saying it's better than keeping him at right tackle, because you are going to get whoever the quarterback is killed. And I don't care. You could put Lamar Jackson back there, and he will not survive. So
Yep.
at this point in the season, it's can you get Olu Fashanu out of Penn State? And sure, you're going to have to move him from left tackle to right tackle. Can it be Joe Alt from Notre Dame? Could it be another offensive lineman? I don't know. And it's also going to be how will they survive on that defensive line? Sure, you got Kayvon Thibodeau, who has proven somewhat he's a great edge rusher. You need a guy alongside of him. Dexter Lawrence has been suffering without Leonard Williams now, obviously taking all the pressure on the interior. But it'll be interesting as we near the offseason. Hopefully the Giants can ruin some hopes of the Eagles, some hopes of some Eagles fans. Luke obviously not being too optimistic with the Eagles possibly getting a home playoff game, and if they do, not winning it. So it'll be interesting next week. But with my shout out of the week, I'll probably shout out Darius Slayton. And it's an interesting shout out, I know, because we've been losing games, we've been losing close ones, and I'm not happy about losing games, sure. But what I am happy about is that we're gonna secure a top 5, hopefully top 4 draft pick. Now, like I've touched on previously, the wide receivers have definitely not been a strength for the Giants, and they've been trying. You know, you brought in Wan'Dale last year. You brought in Darius Slayton the year before. You brought in Jalen Hyatt this year. When are things going to change? Things are starting to change, and I can't lie. I'm giving them a lot of credit, but I hope they back it up next year. But Darius Slayton torched I believe it was Witherspoon this week, torched Blankenship last week. Maybe he'll be able to torch the Birds again this upcoming week.
Probably will.
Who the hell knows? But yeah, Darius Slayton looks like a whole lot.
Yeah. My shout out of the week, we shouted him out a little bit earlier for that call he made. I'm going to go with Jim Harbaugh. That was a big time moment. And I think a lot of coaches, including the one we root for, would probably punt the ball in that scenario and put it in their defense. And then you got to call timeouts, and then you get the ball back with no timeouts, and it's kind of up in the air. versus saying, hey, we need 2 yards. I'm going to trust my guy to go get it. So I'm with it 100%. I think that's what really, in retrospect, won them the game, or at least put them in position to win the game. So I'm going to go with Jim Harbaugh as my last shout out, which is pretty crazy to say.
That is
but
pretty crazy.
I guess we'll end it on a Michigan note. Why not? That kind of year.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, on the last episode of Rivals, we want to thank everybody who has tuned in. It's been about 20 or so weeks since we've done this, and just been keeping on building. I'll be departing for Barcelona, so I won't be able to continue. But Luke will be hopping on a different show. But again, we want to thank everybody for coming out. We know Monday at 10:30 at night, it isn't easy. Thank you to everybody that keeps on tuning in, commenting. As always, we want to thank Gleason's Bar and Grill. Gleason's Bar is located at 6700 Mill Creek Ave in Levittown, Pennsylvania. Use promo code A2D for 10% off your order whenever you dine in, take out, or online. Gleason's Bar and Steaks.com. I'm Jordan. He's Luke. We'll catch y'all soon. Peace out.